This is the first time ever in 17 years of Writers House Fellows that 2 fellows for that year are in the same room, and that's because the amazing Samuel R. Delany is here in the audience right there. The much loved Chip Delany, and that was a great session that we had with Chip back in February, and here we are in March, and so we have Eileen Myles, and in April we have, just for a little bit of a change, we have the writer of many episodes and the showrunner of a TV show, minor TV show called Mad Men, Matthew Weiner, who will be here. And I can reveal 2 of the 3 fellows for next year, can't I?
Yes.
Okay. So in March of 2017, we will be having Nathaniel Mackey here, who will be coming up from North Carolina. We think he's come from Carolina. Who knows where he'll be? But anyway, and then in April, we'll be having Lydia Davis here. So please come back. And February is going to be a big surprise.
Because we don't know yet. Surprise for you. Yeah.
We have some totally wacky ideas. I'm still standing here looking at all you people. Oh, Eileen will be here in a second. I have a feeling that she's going to.
Oh, yeah, maybe turn off cell phones.
Ah, yes. Cell phones. Can you turn them all the way off? All the way off? We're recording this session, and you'll be able to watch recordings of this session. And Eileen, that's for you right there. Your bag is there. We're recording these sessions, and we will make sure that the links are available on the Writers House webpage, and also we'll send to the RSVP list so you can watch. And then tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we'll have a brunch at 10, and then at 10:30, Eileen and I will be sitting at the table here, and we'll be doing a kind of interview conversation with Q&A. And at the end of tonight's session and at the end of tomorrow's session, we are making available, actually during the session, we're making available 4 books. It happens to be 4 books that we studied in the Kelly Writers House Fellows Seminar. The new publication, the new edition of Chelsea Girls with the amazing Mapplethorpe photo on the front. And Inferno, a poet's novel. We're selling that. Gotta read this if you haven't. Chip said to me, "You're going to love this book." And indeed, I did. The Importance of Being Iceland, which is a collection. It's called Travel Essays in Art, but it's a collection of art review, art criticism, and this great title essay or quasi-title essay, Iceland. Highly recommend this book if you haven't. And then we're all happy celebrating the emergence of I Must Be Living Twice, new and selected poems, which we're making available. And Eileen is agreeable to greeting you and signing some of these books, depending on how long it all takes, right here after. So I'm Al Filreis, and I'm so pleased to say that I'm the faculty director and one of the founders of the Kelly Writers House, which is 20 years old this year. And Writers House Fellows is 17 years old, and it came about because Paul Kelly, who made the renovation of this old 1854-1851 cottage possible in 95 and 96, and by the time he got to 98, he said to me, "I don't recognize any of the names of the people who are speaking here." And I said, "That's sort of the point." I mean, without being rude to your donor, I just said we're all about emerging writers and, low honoraria and et cetera. And he said, "Well, I'm not going to tell you who to bring, but what if I made it possible for you to bring eminent writers?" And thanks to Paul, who is going to watch this video, so I'm looking at the camera, or a camera there, or one over there. Paul makes it possible with a grant every year for us to bring in 3 eminent writers. And as I mentioned, Eileen Myles is our fellow for this month. So pause for a second so that we can all Philadelphians and Penn people in the room can thank and honor Eileen Myles, who is our fellow. So you may wonder why we're not in a larger auditorium. It's sort of a charter here that we want these events to feel like they have the person as opposed to impersonality, the personality and the intimacy of all of our programs, even though these are, when you have an eminence here, it's like 120 people jammed in and breaking fire codes. We apologize for that, but we wanted this to continue to have that feel. So that's why we're doing it. So once I stop nattering, Lily Applebaum, whom I'm going to thank now, who is the coordinator of Writers House Fellows and is the most amazing person, just gets it all together and makes it all seem so easy. Lily Applebaum. Once I stop nattering, she's going to have, she has something to say and a little gift to give to Eileen, and then we will both sit down. And Amanda Silberling, who is is a student in the Writers House Fellows class, is going to do an introduction, and then it will be a chance for Eileen to give a reading. So we're all looking forward to it. Remember, if you want to come back tomorrow, 10 o'clock for brunch and 10:30 for the program, and we do have a few seats left, I think.
You don't have to write to me.
Okay, great. Okay, so Lily, here you go.
Thank you. Thanks again, everyone, for coming. I'm sort of here to present a gift to Eileen on behalf of our class. This is something we are really excited about at the Writers House, is to have students involved in hand-setting type and letterpress printing or screen printing, various types of printing in the university print shop. And so we talked about what poem we wanted to select to print as a broadside. And we ended up choosing a selection from a selection of the poem "What Tree Am I Waiting" from your new and selected. We wanted to pick something new, and this poem is about many things, but one thing it's about is traveling and the sort of like feeling of constant travel. And one thing that we're extremely grateful for, and the students express this a lot to you, but I'll say it like meaning from me and also the students, is for your agreeing to travel here to us in Philly and spend so much time expressing just everything. And it's been so amazing. So I'm really excited to present this hand-printed broadside. Actually, Gabe from the class and Henry Steinberg, who's in the back, worked on this broadside, and excited to present you a copy, and as well, of course. And we'll also be, you all can get your own copy of the broadside. We'll be selling copies in the back along with the books. So if you'd like to take something home, perhaps Eileen would inscribe it the same way she would inscribe a book. So anyway, without further ado, I'll bring up Amanda Silberling.
Last semester, in my experimental poetry workshop, I said to my professor, Ron Silliman, "If I ever become a famous poet, I will never admit that I spent the first 18 years of my life in Boca Raton, Florida. I'll just say I'm from Philadelphia." Ron replied, "But why would you want to hide a part of yourself that makes you the writer that you are?" Like Eileen Myles, I have a complicated relationship with home. Myles grew up in a Catholic, working-class Boston family, discovering her queer identity, feeling like an outsider. As Myles tells us across many of her autobiographical works like Chelsea Girls and Inferno, works that have touched me deeply with their urgency to be heard, Eileen Myles moved to New York in 1974 to be a poet. I moved to Philadelphia 40 years later in 2014 for a similar purpose. I wanted to live in a city where I could be myself and discover an artistic community. I wanted to be a poet. It took me a long time to feel confident enough to call myself a poet, especially after growing up an outsider in a small suburb famous for its golf courses, shopping malls, and senior citizens. I felt like an other for so long that I still experience a wide-eyed, buzzing excitement in Philadelphia, a city filled with artistic culture that I'm now happy to call my home. This is an excitement I find magnetic in Myles's work. In Chelsea Girls and Inferno, we have the pleasure of watching Myles grow into the prolific, widely loved and respected writer that she is today. John Ashbery calls Myles' New York Bohemia a lost Eden, but though this Eden is lost, we can connect to Myles' experiences as her writing is self-aware and open in a way that invites us to amble through the East Village, not as a spectator, but as a friend. Even after Myles breaks into a realm of literary success, telling us about parties at Allen Ginsberg's apartment, tours through Germany with Kathy Acker, and parties with Robert De Niro, to whom she introduces herself as Eileen Myles, the poet. She always retains her humility, sharing the same eagerness that she felt when she first moved to New York to be a poet. Her enthusiasm for art and writing is undying and inspiring. As she writes in Inferno, poetry, and this is why I love it until I will die, always winds up being the conga line between chaos and it being the real monster moving up the coast, the norm. Eileen Myles writes within brilliant contradictions. She is intimidating and honest, heartbreaking and hilarious, writing poetry, prose, art criticism, and plays that turn heads and refuse to play by the rules. In the essay How to Write an Avant-Garde Poem, Myles says, "An artist should never become professional. The American tradition of do-it-yourself, of permanently insecure and self-taught, that's avant-garde, playing to a different audience, even with the right instruments." It's clear that Eileen Myles is a poet of change. She even ran for president in the 1992 election as an openly female lesbian candidate to protest the corrupt, male-dominated political landscape. As a queer writer who emerged in the 1970s, Myles and her inventive writing and activity in the St. Mark's and Lower East Side scenes helped create a space for writers of the other to be heard. In Inferno, she explains her 70s New York bohemia. She says, "The place I found was carved out from sadness and sex, and to write a poem there, you merely needed to gather." Even works that experiment with fiction and narrative, like her poet's novels, hold a distinct poetic elasticity, carving out a unique home between poetry and prose. Myles writes in the epilogue to I Must Be Living Twice, new and selected poems, genre is like gender in the poetry world, meaning that it can be fluid, chosen by the writer and the writer only. For a project in the Writers House Fellow Seminar, I interviewed poets with a relationship to Myles to better understand how her writing influenced the poetry scene at large. I was touched and inspired by how each writer emphasized Myles's generosity and friendship. C.A. Conrad, another poet who felt like an outsider growing up, told me about how he found Myles's work as a teenager in the midst of a deep depression. He was so awakened by this poetry that he took a bus to New York, got Eileen's phone number from a payphone operator, and met her that day in a coffee shop. They've been friends ever since. I can see myself within the poetry and prose of Eileen Myles, staring back at me from the page. The desire to be a great poet, the pain of leaving home, the looming struggle of financial instability, and above all, the urgency of wanting your voice to be heard. In The Sadness of Leaving, Myles writes of the highs and lows of life as a creative. She says, "I'm terrified to go and you won't miss me. I'm terrified by the bright blues of the subway. Other days I'm so prepared to believe that everyone walking down the street is someone I know. I won't kill myself today. It's too beautiful." Now, I say with confidence, I am a poet. When I read Eileen Myles, there is power in my vulnerability, and I can embrace the space of the other. When I write poetry, a fire continues to build inside of me, and one day I will write my own Inferno. Like Eileen Myles, I will refuse to hold back my voice and my experience. Eileen Myles' writing has taught me to abandon the fear of writing honestly, the fear of living honestly. As we've discussed in the Fellow Seminar, it's easier said than done to move to New York to live a bohemian lifestyle, especially since it's no longer the 70s. But I've learned from Eileen Myles and from the past 2 years I've spent in Philadelphia that as long as there is art, and as long as the others can find themselves in that art, there will always be communities for people like us to find a home. C.A. Conrad told me, "I feel so lucky to be alive on our war-torn little planet at the same time as Eileen Myles." As I spend more and more time with her exposed, complex, electrifying writing, I can't help but feel the same way, and by the end of this reading, I know you will feel excited to share our war-torn little planet with her too. I'm so excited and honored to introduce to you Eileen Myles.
That was so great. Thank you so much. It was crazy. And it's frightening to hear such words as eminence, eminent, or whatever, however it was used. So where's Al?
Right here.
Oh, thank you.
You are eminent.
Okay. With an eye. So thank you so much for inviting me, and today was so fun. You guys are geniuses. It was incredible, and I have so many friends, Rachel and Chip, and this is crazy. So thanks. I feel that I'm done. Was Erica somewhere? Hey. So I might not even read. I'm just like. So it's great. Thank you, Diet Coke. So I'm going to skip around a bunch. I have too much to read, and I want to not read too long. So I guess I'm going to read some new poems, and then some stuff from the selected, and then a teeny piece from Chelsea Girls, and a teeny piece from my dog book. So the pieces just get teenier and teenier. And thank you, Paul, wherever you are. Paul, the man who made the eminences come. I guess I'll start with these guys. Like, what if I give a shitty reading now? The heat's on. Oh, yeah, this is just obvious. This is Last Supper for the Catholics. It was Wednesday night, and the food was so hot the tree sat undecorated. I watched the men in the takeout shop, falafel men, spoon sauce generously, and I thought, make it good for me. It is my last supper. The shape of the little tomatoes, what is that shape? Oval, like an eye, the bottom of the boat, a death boat? Connie pointed it out, embedded in the architecture of the Guggenheim uptown, death tucked in all its wise corners. I missed out on Peggy's house in Venice one day, the day it was closed. Looked through the black gate of Peggy's house. Hi, Peggy. Dead at 138. Can I tell you what I ate today? Besides the falafel platter, I had a bird's nest, then a slice, and before that, let's see, am I boring you to death? These guys actually made the actual food mentioned in this poem. This is crazy. And then a slice, and before that, let's see, am I boring you to death? I had a couple of bananas, a little too ripe, bright yellow, some cheese and crackers, beige and blue. I had some banana bread, tan, and you know what I thought at the gym tonight? I really thought it was really bright, and I was naked. I was standing in the shower like a mooing cow, staring into the light, and I thought, life, Peggy, life is the only privilege, and the only real toast is food. This one's called Tonight. Just for the fuck of it, my arms are stripes. I fling them upwards to be part of it. Trees, to be one with all the things in the world. Sap, rockets going up. I'm pink and shiny round, a pale face. I'm a pearl. Hear my silence in the ponds of the world. See my face come dripping out of my mouth like a fish, drip out from my circle. Hey, just for once I felt the thing rising in the rockets of my fame, to pull in the limbs, my roots, quit the community, find my sandals, walk, save myself. Millions of candles know our distance, flower magic, hits of light dropping down the trees in my game. Everywhere is a kind of travel, every distance is me, you, when I go. In the woods, a deer is moving, call me, crunchy leaves, starry night, mammy, and the ringing sounds of your hoofs in the light in the woods tonight. Frank, did I say Frank's here? That's incredible. Frank, hi. This one's called Scribner's. And you know, I lived in Midtown for a little while, so it's just that beautiful thing where all those buildings used to be painted on. And so it's sort of gone, but sort of not. There's a little more going on here than preservation, your water towers against the sky, your faded message, 2 windows mucking up the S and the I. Still, I know it was 43rd Street where I badly slept with you. My memory, I was perfect then. There's more than that that's going on. Just breathing is rotting. Everything is burning. I'm probably madly in love with you. But it's her I'm leaving tonight, or me and my lousy lies. So lolling around in another lost home with your camera, checking perfection before you got film, and now I don't want those damn pictures. The Teletubby transfixed nailed to some scaffolding on 42nd Street, the poking tower over the dirty parking lot wall with the yellow stripe. That's right, I'm not Mr. Teletubby. It was sad every time we took a picture. This is a relationship. Click. This is a relationship. If my cover is an illustration of me and so is my writing an observation of truth, not it. Fucking scaffolding, right? Fucking burning alive. Spring is so perfect tonight because outside in the real house the birds are shamefully true, hopping under the hokey sidewalk furniture, shitty captured flowers looking droopy. Rosie just wants to put her belly on some cool cement. Does. I do this, appear to be a bum in my hiking boots and hairy legs. I'm no longer a dyke, just a man. Hello, little birds. This is unnamed New York. This is totally from the experience of working and teaching in San Diego and coming back to New York and the new altered state being like short of sleep and then suddenly on the subway and kind of, it was like a great new drug state. Here in the beautiful heat, digging and digging for you in your wide and wonderful pause, day subway, day doggy. I was trying to say it writes in bites. Citizen, aged, local, literary, queer, cocksucking, shopping, pussy, manifesting, not will Arnold win? If you enjoyed smoking in bars, study French expressionism, employ your loss, buy a car, take a course, make a college, buy something old, again and again and again. The sneaker swings. I like it here. It's orange and my hands are free. The new book was composed by picking shit out of a wave. Whenever they said vague, I thought vague. I couldn't help laughing, standing at the bottom of my pit. I thought Mark Twain was here in the crater of a giant tomato. Big artists like Era, the tomato missed. Being intended to hit God, it hit his mother. I speak for her. According to my calculations, I should be finished with this book now. Let's see. This is called Your Name. It's very hard to hunt from indoors, I'll say that for you. And text is at best an attenuated warning. Sound has a range of many desires, not just map. I subscribe to the Grandpa Bunny school of theory. I mean, Genesis to write is a form of accounting, an approximate promise in the sunny mouth of time, a horny bet. Or else hunters lolling around the fire. What did you get? How can we avoid it, this making a speech? Long-limbed and maybe in July, aren't we lucky to have captured each other in this hideous neon light? It's called Cigarette Girl. Certain words like girl and lady, I sort of love to use because I hate them so much. It's sort of like taking the word back. I have a Tumblr called Ladylike, which is sort of about, I figure if you hate the word lady, then somehow you might like ladies. And it makes sense ultimately if you keep repeating it. Yeah. Cigarette Girl. A long raindrop, more of a tear, fell from an awning or a nail. Shit the top of a roof and hit my neck inside my coat. I don't know how it got in so perfectly and struck my flesh, my warm white neck on a rainy night in winter. I almost said this to you. She wanting to move on. If I spoke another language, I'd break into it now. There's nothing lonelier than a lonely American. My limits contract and expand. I grab the white handle of my speech like it's an umbrella, and I shake it free of words. Empty American balloon. Holy smoke. Looking out at the window, it's nothing to know you, puff. This is called Greece. It's the word. It's the word. This summer, I tell my friends, I intend to spend a solid month in Greece. This is ridiculous, my friends. Say, look at yourself. Your shoes are worn thin. When rent time comes, you fall down on the street and cry until someone comes along and drops dollar bills on you. I will go to Greece for a solid month, living on a Greek isle bordered by the blue Aegean in a small stone house. I can go to Greece if I want. On July 1st, sitting in my apartment with my sandals on, I will be in Greece. This is madness, my friends say. You cannot travel by sheer desire. I agree with them, it's madness. But in Greece, I will be sane. And one more from this book, and then I'm way off my schedule. Something else is going to have to die in this reading. But I love, this poem is my favorite one, I think, of the new ones in this book, because it's called That Rat's Death. And it's basically about discovering Kafka late in life. You know, because it was like, I went to college during the 60s, and it was like the trial. Everybody's carrying the trial around. I'm like, red and black. I'm like, I'm not going to read the trial. And then years passed, you know? And then I'm writing this dog book, and then somebody says, have you read Kafka's mouse story? And I'm like, no. And so I get this collection, and I read Josephine the Mouse Singer, which is an amazing story about a mouse opera singer. And I was like, he's amazing. And so then I'm like reading Metamorphosis and saying, have you read Metamorphosis? I was like, Kafka's great, you know? People look at me like I'm the stupidest person in New York. I was like, That Rat's Death. And it's also, I have another poem that does this, which is the faux breakup poem. Like you're in a relationship and then you like, oh, we're breaking up. And you write a poem and then you don't break up. And you have to push it to the back of the desk. They're like, what's that rat? Oh, you don't want to read that. You know, it's like, then you break up and you bring out the amazing breakup poem. It's like, I'm proud that I fed my avocado to the mice this week. Do you see that scattered dust around the hole? I felt disappointed the apple had been spared the throbbing soup home. He said, it's a storm. It's a storm, I thought. Am I allowed to ask entire questions, to take this space alone? You bobbing, you painted in my dog's face so carefully. Some kind of violence stretches the thought so long and allows the horns of words to touch each other. I think of him taking this much space. You don't know about this dish towel, for that matter. Who was I in another time giving the tale so much, puzzled that these spices went someplace else they did today in a sandwich? The empty hall into which I am reading, the empty country, an entire country, I wanted all of them. How I would like just one to pick things up in its cities, in its rain, its coast, the outer coat. 78 RPM, silly newspapers turning, cat on a porch, and other countries nearby, and home ready for me when I have something to say or show, if ever. My empty mistakes, my empty vase, my empty powers of horror, my empty sex. Oh, bring the snow. That rat's death killed me because I would see it for days over and over, and it hardly could be the same rat whose insides whisk the street. We don't think that war is such an incredible mess, but it was just yesterday and in ancient poems, years ago, in the past. Dying, the balloon just burst. It cannot bring you back again. The huge, cool breath, the lake doesn't want you anymore, or her arms, her sweet muff or breast, the storm, the past. But no, I won't leave my cheese out for them anymore, and I must be the last person in the world in New York to read him who told us about mice that sing and fill empty auditoriums like us in our singing hearts, our formula for bringing it out, pulling the receptacle apart, watch the tiny ship floating on it, smithereens. I duck the tail, edging over, taking a little bit more. The price of wider concepts is not choosing your drops, oh, flicking me off, reminding me of you, everyone, yell at once, two rabbit legs jutting out. I keep my childhood around almost more than everyone, and a mouse can share my house, wet tootsie. It's kind of great. The whole thing is relative. Since I admired his mountains, I imagined I was in his landscapes. But opening packages is occurring all over the place. That's a strong image, and I feel like the smallness is directly rooted. Forgetting to use the new calendar I planned, these marks I imagined are the sources, all the milk flooding wildly over the rolling hills and out the sun's comical eyes. Not tears, but creamy drops of mammalian weather. I'm given real information, and the most difficult part is blindly creating the space where the parts I can't see or even hear spread out, like the night in Paris when I walked to the movies, onto my desk and the surrounding hills and the bleachers where everyone is pounding themselves bloody in salute of the hunt. All I ever wanted was dinner, or at least his love. The delight I see in him is equally empty for anyone, and probably that's his stealth. Inner lake. There's a car, a maroon, a colorless oval. I can imagine the seats and the feeling of hearing a song as we're weaving over the hills. There's no break. Everybody I ever saw in my seacoast community is already facing the problems, huge and gloomy, I grant you, and the night spills on my keys, which are splayed over the counter and outside its light, and they are flipping their cards, every one of them. It's like the mice are flipping the card, the mice are playing cows. So I'm going to read a little piece from Chelsea Girls now and continue on my journey. The train is 5 minutes late, I'll just have you know. So you should know that Eileen and Chris live in a house, an apartment. It was like born in a house, you just live in a house all your life, even if you're living in a tiny little apartment in the East Village. So the two of them live in an apartment in the East Village in like 1979 or maybe 81, I can't remember. And they have no money, and Eileen thinks she's getting a grant, and Tom, and they keep waiting. And so we're like about halfway through the story. Yesterday was the day we waited and waited, and the mailman never came. I guess they know I'm not an artist. The phone company called and said we'd be turned off Monday. I put on a gray hooded smock and pencil, some whiskers and a mustache on my face, and curled up on the bed. Every time the girlfriend Chris is, somehow they give each other, anyway, Chris is called Merchard for some reason. And I mean, it's a whole long story, but I won't go into it. Every time Merchard, it seems sort of French, right? Merchard, sort of French lesbian, as we know, the original country of the lesbian, you know. Every time Merchard spoke and elicited a response, I felt pained. The sound of my own voice broke my haze each time. The phone rang, and a woman told me to come take a test Monday for a job. I looked at myself in the mirror, washed my face, and started thinking. Merchard and I threw ourselves down on the bed and raised our arms in the air, harmonizing our animal sounds, directing them to the goddess's ears. I realized I could get back our $10 deposit on the giant black RCA we really wanted. We bombed down to St. Mark's Place, and I showed the guy my slip and asked for my $10 back. He tried to throw us out of the store. 5 people have tried to buy that TV, but I was saving it for you, so you can't get your money back. Get out of here. I pleaded, tried to reason, called him a bastard, and he awkwardly called me a bastard back. Somehow only males are called bastards. He was a large black guy who was getting really fed up. Get out of my store now. No. I want my money back. I jumped in anger in this weird characteristic way I have since a child. I look like an angry frog. You can jump your ass off, but you're not going to get your money back. You've got to give it to me. We're hungry. We don't have any dinner tonight. Nothing. You've got the store with all these TVs. You don't need my $10. You're just doing it for spite. I didn't do it on purpose to you. I'd rather have that TV. I love that TV, but tonight I'm so broke I can't eat. Every time he said, get out, I said, no. I've never used this tactic before. Finally, he peeled a wrinkly 10 off a small wad of bills. Here, now get out. I was so worked up as we headed down St. Mark's Place. Merchard was patting me on the back, and we turned into the deli on 1st Ave and 6th Street and bought 2 6-packs of Tuborg Gold in bottles and a pack of Marlboros. We felt so much better drinking and smoking and seeing a future, and then the buzzer rang, and it was Tim, and we gave him a beer, and the 3 of us looked at the cameras and the film and the way this apartment is laid out and wondered what kind of movie we were going to make. By 9 o'clock, we had finished filming, and Christine had blood all over her shirt, and thousands of beer bottles sat on the table, and cigarette butts. This film actually exists. It's so incredibly bad. And cigarette butts and wires and lights were looping in and out of everything. The scene with the hand going towards the phone, and then the cleaver and the squirt of blood was really great. When I fell back from being stabbed, and I think really hit Tim's nose, so both of us looked pretty pained, and Merchard thought it shot well. We were gleaming and pleased, but no cigarettes were left, so we went out in the rain and bought some and headed to the St. Mark's Bar and Grill to show Tim what a great place it was, but it was a drag. I called Tom and Richard to borrow money, but they weren't home. We thought it over for a while. Chris came back from the bathroom excited that it was 11:15 and Alice's workshop would be out and all drinking at El Centro. Tim was looking for pills, and Chris and I had just wanted someone to buy us drinks. The place was empty. So was the Ukrainian place. Actually, it was packed, but with the wrong people. We wound up standing outside the Fifth Street Deli trying to think of someone to call. We had one idea, but no one had the nerve to call her. I asked Tim for $1, and we went into the deli and bought a box of Lorna Doones. They made us sick, and we decided to spend the rest of the weekend starving, not smoking, not drinking, and taking advantage of our situation by cleaning out. She fell asleep pretty quickly. I started to, but as I was falling asleep, heard her voice go, "Eileen, are you in there?" It scared the shit out of me. I was either out of my body or Chris was talking to me from inside her dream. I touched her to reassure us, and she barely woke, and I told her I had a nightmare, and she put her arm around me and fell back to sleep. I felt safer now, so I could explore the situation. Every time I closed my eyes, lights started flashing, colors were reeling, and I could almost make pictures out of them. One window was too bright, and the closed one was full of ominous shadows. I felt I was flipping out. Then I remembered about a year ago when Joe and Tom were making a movie here, and the place felt spooked afterwards, like movies leave ghosts or spirits, plus the sensation of watching or being watched doesn't stop when the film runs out. First, I shut the door across the window. It's cold. I'm shivering, but then I open it. I don't like to lose the light. The windows are so dirty and spotted. Outside looks like an old-fashioned painting, and I don't like paintings, but this one. The Christmas interview is sitting on the table. Carter calls to arms, to Russia with hate. He asked me if I'd be home at 1, so I called him collect at 20 past. Said we'd meet at 5th and 2nd Ave. Walked into the vicious bodega. 2 women from there beat Christine up. 2 months. 2 months I'd walk in there drunk, buy some Marlboros, say, "You hate women." You do. Once the ugly one raised a baseball bat from behind the counter. Go ahead. All these guys were standing around. We stared at each other for a moment, then I left. We walked into the bodega last night at 1:30, and he went for the freezer, pulled out 2 red and white 6s of Bud and cans. I love men. If we're going to drink, we're going to drink. Big solid hand goes for 2 6s, putting them down on the counter, picking up the bag, and going out the door. Stayed up till about 5. We've got Susan's TV for a week. Talking, watching Joe Franklin move termite celebrities around seats, asking asshole questions, never wondering what the answer might be. Still a dream of mine to be on a talk show. Couldn't you be on TV just because you always wanted to be a guest? Still, I'd need an agent to do my explaining. So nice to see them yesterday. Big floppy house, all their paintings like messy Gertrude Stein, smoking his Chesterfield, drinking her beers. We go out and get more of everything. A conversation always unfinished. The Truman Capote piece I was telling you about is in this red and green interview. We were watching TV, some old movie we didn't see but kept flickering while we talked. How everything's equal since I've been fucked over worse by women than men, almost more because it hurts more. A woman uses you because you let her in so naturally, never expected. It's just chess. I've learned so much. Women per se, men per se. Everything feels equal. Trust per se. You walk away thinking, what a great man, what a great woman. How really nice they are, in or by itself, intrinsically. No such things. You make a hole in the weave if you expect anything to be something through and through. There, I've gotten to explain it. You look at people, they look at you. Sure, it's like, have you ever been a Catholic? Someone wants you to be a machine or else they just think it's just a passing phase. Lesbian per se. For their benefit, I should be a mannequin. No, I never think of fucking men. They're never cute. I think they smell, etc. Then you don't talk to them, and it gets worse, like nobody's real. I mean, I am a dyke per se, but unless I squelch all my ambiguities, be like a guy who won't admit another guy is cute, or he'd be a faggot. Oh, no. Well, I don't care. I just intend to carry on. I'm not going to worry about my persuasions or everyone's intentions. I know just how real I am, honestly. Money in the bank. The phone's half off. The power's going off tomorrow. I am unemployed. So is Mershad. I owe the woman in the bakery $4.65. I'll have to be flirty when I come back. I owe Mario across the street $3.59. I owe Vince upstairs $2. I owe Bruce next door $10. Philip downstairs $5. Greg $5. Rose $25. Andy $5. Richard $5. Ted Greenwald $5. Vicky $15. Helene $100. Gertie $150. Susan $110. Dee Dee $1. Lots of dollars. So many dollars I can't remember. So many dentists, 2. And of course the Harvard Coop, $30. I woke up with no Tampax, the blood streaming through my jeans, so I took them off, and I'm walking around like a giant 30-year-old baby woman with an olive green towel between my legs. Fell back to sleep that way with my diaper on. Mershad goes down and gets the mail. A rebate check from the Harvard Coop for $241. Breakfast, Tampax. I pack my jeans with toilet paper, and the two of us stroll to the check cashing place. The guy shakes his head at my teeny endowment, deducts his, and I get 201. I shake my head. Mershad suggests we go to the Certified on 2nd Ave where we can get everything and probably steal. It turns out to be Associated, but what the fuck's the difference, so I don't point it out. Cram Tampax down my jeans, buy some eggs. Mershad's get a taste for ham, she says, so we try Shaq's. Too dear. Spanish place on 6th, but has cheap ham. 2 rolls at the bakery, 40 cents. We've got 16 cents left. Heat up the rest of the coffee. I do the egg, she does the ham. Everything's great. Sun streaming onto our roaring breakfast. Butter, salt, pepper, everything being wolfed down by 2 lesbians per se, while the cat countlessly assaults a trash bag and Mershad hurls her across the room. Once or twice. We let the cat, little Andy, lick our dishes on the floor. The coffee's all gone. We'd love another pot. And also I suggest a big, tall glass of good orange juice. She agrees. Would you like a glass of ice water? Okay. I'm washing the glasses, setting them up, dropping cubes into the tall iced tea glass and the shorter, broader beer mug. I set them out. We're sitting in the sun, drinking our water. I'm smoking. Mershad's talking about really quitting today. I should too, I prefer, since I have no idea where the next pack is coming from. But I love to smoke. She'll probably quit, at least for a while. Ula hasn't called yet. Mershad's going to do it today since I'm gushing blood and want to stay home and be cozy and warm. If Ula hasn't called yet by now, it's 2:45, so we lose $15. Start planning the other afternoon. She goes to the refrigerator and pulls out a couple of beers. A 6 wound up from last night. Our future. The phone rings. Mershad's chugging her beer. I'm going to be late. I'm going to be late. Do you think I should have another beer? Maybe she should bring a couple. Ula would like one. Would that be cool? No, don't do it. So I go to get the other one now. There, pop. That's all times falling into each other. Mershad's still putting on her brown leather gloves. I mean Chris. She's looking English, French, American, lesbian, not dyke. There's a difference, at least right now. I'm looking at her standing there, looking at her in her orange construction boots and everything else dark. I'm really adoring her as she's leaving. And by the second, she's getting more and more beautiful. Look at her eyes, all green and golden brown and gigantic, and these unreal lashes. 2 are caught between her nose and her eyes, just sitting there. And you know how people who really love you or who you irritate are always coming over and picking something off you? Well, I can't even tell her I like those 2 lashes just where they are. Her entirety goes out the door. Eileen's entirety is lying on the couch watching the TV, waiting for them to turn us off. The story says I have 10 more minutes, so we'll see what happens. I was like, what are the best of my new poems? Holy shit. This is good. This one's called A Gift for You. Around 5:30 is a peaceful time. A beautiful, peaceful time. You can just hear the dog lapping. David lifts his smoke. This is David Wanarovich on the cover of the biography of him that Cindy Carr wrote. David lifts his smoke to his lips forever, dangling chain in the middle of everything, about the top shelf or so. The party at which I said, that's my collected works, and everyone stared. My home was so small. Is it? I'm not particularly into the task of humility at the moment, but I'm not against it. It's like that deflated beach ball on a tiny chair I think of as joking with the larger one on a painting floating in air. My home is large. Love made it large once, not to get all John Wieners. And believe me, love made it small once. This place only had sex, unlike the house. I love a house. I fear a house. A house never gets laid. Frankly, who doesn't like a hotel room? I live in a hotel room, a personal one. A young person very much like me was brutal. No personal photographs, please. It was anyone's home, perfect for a party. Now I'm going fast. How the description of a drug enters a room and changes the room. Thus, with going fast, say thus if you want to go slow. To drink the wrong thing for a moment, for you to lick my thigh in your honey face. I met a dog named Izzy once. I met a dog named Alan, the calm person writing her calm poems now and then. She shows her sacred heart. She opens her chest and a monkey god is taking a shit, swinging on his thing. You didn't know I had so much inside me. Buckets of malice, Bibles of peace. I don't want to go all library on you now, like my mother, the mother of God, or my brother named Jack, who sat in a deck of cards getting hard. When she squeezes in getting cozy, I know less what I want to say. I can open an entire room comes out each moment. That's what I mean, not things widen and flow. There's no purpose to this. I was ecstatically in love last spring, and so everything I wrote about just had this amazing high quality. This is called You. I'm bravely eating my croissant at everyone. I'm living... You know what I mean, right? I'm living on my wetboard. I'm living on my money. Limits set and the lights lower. I worship the blue marks on the hydrant. How like the name of a flower. Okay, this is a made-up Welsh form, which is to say that I read when I was in college. I went to College of Boston, and so there was a class called Celtic Literature, which was like a salvation for the working-class Irish kids who just only knew Danny Boy as our, what we had. But there was this great book called the Penguin Book of Welsh Verse, and it had these gnomic stanzas, and it would be, a branch falls, the guilty flee, though no man pursueth. It would be like nature and then pithy, weird, moralistic phrase. So 50 years passes, and I write this, So, because I live in Marfa, Texas some of the time now. It's called Western Poem. Purple clouds, my doubts. Iridescent cream, my loss. Purple mountains, my friends. Buzzards circling overhead, my hopes. Birds singing, jagged singing, my indecision. Wrecked skinny tree, my past. Photographs I send home, my indiscretion. Amber street light, my reading. My appetite, my appetite. Red striped sky, my confusion. Bright yellow, gray sky, my ardor. Car lights, my commotion. Telephone pole, my wishes. Stop sign, my fear. Family dollar. Courthouse, my opinion. Black cloud, white sky, hesitation. Black cloud, white sky, bliss. Blinking signals, my intentions. Black mountains, too many suggestions. Skipping white lines, my attention. A young cowboy, first saw the lights. The horns on your van, my defensiveness. That old train, my dreams. That old train. Formal poet. It's called Sylvia. Later, the whole generosity of dogs in the silver sun, my loneliness like a sash, that boat in the distance, triangle heart, sylph with a beard, got wet and gleaming black, what I like about you. Go deeper now into the present out there with the kid on the swing. Everybody sit there. Doesn't mean I'll be here when I am. Kids out there, what is divinity? Turns out something really large is on the swing. May 26th. I keep a tiny gesture, sweet William, dazzling orange sky. My, dying New York. This is called Lark. It was a dream in which somebody yelled from outside, actually in the real world, and woke me up, and their name was Brenda, which explains nothing. I bought a window, and I had to strap the window to my truck and drive 25 miles. And then the woman that helped me strap it realized she had left her strap. And then she goes, "Oh, it's okay. I'll come to your house." And that's what... This is like... There's so little to do with the poem, but it's mysterious. Lark. Anything could possibly become anything else. It was a condition of this dream. Things could blow themselves right into other things. Not like a collision, but a blend. It was like there was a wind in this universe, and conversion was the rule. I was telling her about the thing ending, and I did notice that who I was talking to was my ex. Not the 2015 ex, but the 2013 one. She didn't seem to know who she was or be particularly perturbed not to be herself anymore. She was simply her. Thoughtful, even a little concerned. I guess it got weird when I tried to talk about my feelings. Feelings? She shrieked. She became the most magnificent storm, not even a being anymore, but a spell, a giant boat rocking roar. I guess it was pretty absurd of me when you put it like that. Eileen, called the voice out the window. She had come with her husband to pick up the strap. Who would want to spend the rest of their life with a fat bearded man? But of course, that could be Brenda herself. I could be this house or that silvery ceiling lamp looking down. My love, that distant car turning, passing. Tiny limbs in the pale sky. Planes overhead, my fingers on this pen, being everyone, sighing, turned. Thank you. This one's a little rough. My mother is 95 and it keeps almost dying. And then we do that thing, we all come together, and then she doesn't die. And we're like, oh. I'm sure she'll pull through at some point, but we're like, Mom. She doesn't want to be alive. She's like, please. This is called failed appointment. And also, I was writing at her. I thought, what do you do? We're all sitting there in the room looking at her. So I start writing, and, If I thought I couldn't write in you ever, throw her out, I did. Time for something new. Your short, broken self requires a brand new weapon, skinny old lady, ankles. Nobody sees them. You are my private furniture. We're shocked at her ass, and a bill is stuck to the wall with a knife. At least once we joked about piggies. We were her kids and pretended to care about other people's hearts. Maybe I'll end with a little tiny poem and a long poem, and I think that could be it. And if you think, no, encore, just scream it, because I got plenty. We're not there yet. It's got to be authentic. It was like, okay. This is called Kitchen Holidays, and it's got a slash in between, which means the poet can do whatever she wants, right, and not decide. The kettle whistling. And I'm peeling an orange I'm going to finish in the air of this wild horn. And I splash the boiling water into the French press, splattering water, splashing grains. I'm such an oaf. I wanted to be here with you. I'm in the sad mode right now in these new poems. So this one's called A. And what it is that the artist Shannon Ebner was doing a bunch of work about the letter A, and I wrote a catalog essay. But actually, before I did it, I wrote the poem, which I thought this should be the essay, but it's the poem instead. I was like wrongly inspired. A person outside, budding up, inside, at home, outside one, ringing the streets, the elaborate lighting and the peculiar blocks of the neighbors, their houses and lamps. Pick a letter, any letter. It seems it is broken-hearted, dripping, angel giving it all a squeeze. What's got a lot tomorrow? A curtain, a homelessness, hold it all, French P, purpose, porpoise, orange. The letters rearrange themselves. It's impossible to make a plan. Anybody, auto body, all on your own, make a P. It was incredible. One dog, my incredible loneliness. I want to roll my genitals into as a large, empty field in which I can say, everyone, and feel love. The dog sprayed, my dog, not hit her quite. I think she squatted, forced out her own rain. Terrific performance. I got a lot. By the time I send you, my friends, I don't know anyone having sex with strangers, all of you. Tell me, I'm weird in my moment. She explained, oh, these are just 2 moments, important. I was in high school too. Which mouth to kiss? In celebration, she is going on a diet, then she may get old. I understand you. I understand everyone. Shen and the singers were down by the lake, and you pulled a sword from the water. It was offered by a hand. The palm of the hand was the letter A. Down the throat of the singer, I wonder what will happen tomorrow. Every day I get on a plane. I miss everyone. Meet you in lettered cities. This morning I stood crying. I think it was after I went running. I said, if you can guarantee me I get as much as the men. I'm stuck on your letter. The dog's limbs crossed. People like that. My belly a soft cushion. I went running this morning straight on his ranch. It's very relaxing to have one of these legal pads. We went to that show too. Why would I, if you felt that way, if there was a house next year, but I never knew when to come? I was sort of excited about you. Okay, I want to be somebody's family, but I'm not. Have your last night of being beautiful or whatever the fuck you're doing with the world. I'm just going to be a little baby and float off on my tether out of space. I wish I could talk to someone. I could cry. Terrible. It is a little portrait of time. Dripping. Wait. I've got it on my phone. I don't have the sustenance, the food to be too happy too long. It's just a made-up thing. I just want to go wandering off into the woods like a dog. I'm holding a bunch of grapes like a baby. I'm like a big, slow ad for the failure of love. It's almost too sad to walk my dog. Her bulletin board has a 6-pack of white notes. I can't stop you from urinating. It's your vital right. A dog has a yard. It's the world. I will take you out there. Nobody can take care of me. I can take care of everyone. Look at my feet, the toes clutching somebody's sheet. I am a statue in my way. I'm sick of not belonging, babe. Can anyone eat a whole bag of grapes out of sorrow? I can't hear you. I took the dog out to walk and she stood. I said, okay, and I took her in. She doesn't know what she wants in a strange dog position. Now still she doesn't know what she wants. This certainly be the letter I'm being paid to write. A is some human letter. That's a start. Quotes like epaulets on his shoulders. I hit a desk and she's breathing beneath me. In kitchen, my home, my phone. What should I write? Send off pictures to everyone. Message for you if you float by on your ship. Thank you.
Eileen Myles. You want to do a couple more poems?
You like... Oh, yeah, sure. Where's that damn book? You see it? Here? Okay, so I'll read the first poem in this book, and then I'll read writing, and then we'll have had a complete experience. Yeah, I think. What tree am I waiting? That whole part of the world where I won't go anymore, that whole separation I won't feel, high in this house, in this hemisphere, in this artificial light that is artificial. In the earliest morning, dark, in pages and pens, in an unfamiliar bed, in the foot curl, furniture, each rumble. When morning comes and it's still morning, and it's still night. I married a dead girl. We were born in her bloom. Remember that fat bumblebee landed on a lamp? I opened the doors, and I forgot, and the house got colder and colder. Where is this house? The seam between boards merely gains my attention. It's dark and thin. I monitor each situation, my bladder growing full. Climb down, climb up. What tree am I waiting? My whole life in weather. Waiting for my raft. I'll fly to another island. I'll take a train. Already I know it will hurt. This is the hurt country. I came here to hold the hurt like a bird, like a tree. Traffic has rings. We watch it whirl around, damaging our night. Great continents hold the feelings and the ages. What is mine? Going blind. Great masses of them not going home. The country drew a line because of memory. One said, I feel my heart race ahead. In eternity, there is this ache. There is this wakefulness. And this is not writing, and this is teeny, but it's the friend of that poem. And it's so weird because it's in the New York Times Magazine this weekend, and there's a very strange explanation of it, but even weirder. I think I was saying this to the guy. Then it's like, it's so clearly between two women, and then they do a little illustration with a telephone and a TV set and a man and a woman, just in case, you get the wrong idea. It's like when I saw the Yale Gertrude Stein the first time, and there was a poem from Tender Buttons, and something that was so about a nipple, and then the gloss was, the meaning is obscure. And I thought, it was like, again, in case you get any ideas, summer. That morning in the light, that television show got born. I remember it in California, every morning a show, and her wife in bed. Do I like her being there? But I have this now, my pride and my telephone and all my information. And now the teeny poem called Writing. It's in Skies. It's called 234. I can connect any two things. That's God. Teeny piece of Band-Aid, little folded piece of Band-Aid. I ran to the bathroom to see my face. Sometimes I don't want to see my face in the mirror. Sometimes I can't bear my thoughts. Sometimes I can't do anything, but that's okay. Band-Aid, book, God, that's right. Right. Thanks so much.
Eileen Myles. So you're okay. Stay and sign books.
Yeah.
Okay. So Eileen will be here for a little bit, and so if you want to buy one of the 4 books we've made available, please do. Oh, and the broadside, which we're selling for $5. In fact, it's the last lines of the second to last poem, or the third to last poem that Eileen read. Come up here for a little bit and greet her and have her inscribe what you've bought or brought. And we hope that many of you will be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock for brunch and 10:30 for a 1-hour interview conversation. Can we take a minute to thank again our Writers House Fellow, the amazing, eminent Eileen Myles.